We planned that. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Pastor Charmayne Harper, and this is still the Tabor Congregational United Church of Christ. I'm happy to be here this morning. It's a little cold out there, little snowflakes flying. I've been paying a lot of attention to the weather, so I make my run between Omaha and Tabor at a good time if possible. Do we have any announcements? Special ones? I have a couple. Other than what's on the back of the order of service. Karen Weatherhead is back at the Tabor Manor. I met her daughter. She was there. And she looks much better. And Dr. Rodabaugh was returned to the Tabor Manor, and I checked him back in. I got him here, and I got him back. Because he asked me here, are you going to take me home? I said, well, of course I am. He says, well, far worse has happened, his attitude is. But I said, of course I'm going to take you back. I'm not going to make you walk. We also we'd like to ask for some special prayers for some community members. Bob Clapper is at the Tabor Manor now, recovering, hopefully. Bruce Blackburn needs to be kept in your prayers, and Dick Whitehill recently passed away. Also, on a happier note, Randolph Methodist Church is having a pancake and sausage feed today, 11 to 1:30, until the food runs out or they close the doors. Are there any? Yes, Charmayne Harper.
I have become aware that there's a need for these. Bags.
It is the best.
Plastic grocery bags. There's a church, Doreen thinks is Trinity Lutheran in Glenwood. I'm not sure that's right, but she is new. There's a group of ladies there who use these to make pallets for the homeless. Do you know this?
I know it. I've heard of it.
Yes. I didn't realize they were still doing it. But anyway, they don't have enough product. And when they get together, they have to have product or they feel bad. So here's the deal. If you have some of these laying around and they're in your way, and you don't remember to take them to the store to recycle them, then you can do two things with them. You can either bring them here, and I will gather them up and give them to Doreen, or you can take them to the Joe and Go next to the bank, and Don and Martha will gather them up and take them to Doreen. Doreen has a friend in this group who does the crocheting or whatever they do to make these in pallets for the homeless. So we'll gather them and take them to Doreen. She will get them to her friend who works in this group. So we can do some good for people who are suffering from this cold weather. Thank you.
At Gary's most every morning too.
True.
And I just leave bags in her car. And either way, she would get them.
Right. If you don't have a ready connection to Doreen, you'll get one.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
If there are no further announcements, will you please stand as you are able and join me in the call to worship? We usually stand during this, don't we?
Yes.
Oh, I've lost the asterisk there. Okay. Let the ears of all people be attentive. The heavens are telling the glory of God. Everything around us proclaims God's handiwork. Let us bow down and worship our Creator. Day and night, God is at work among us. We are drawn together into one body, the church. As we commune with God, we know we need one another. Let us honor the good to be found in all people. Hear once again the laws and commandments. Find them sure and right and true for all. We weep and mourn our lack of faithfulness. We seek true community in which all are honored. Amen. Please join me in singing the celebration hymn, Breathe on Me, Breath of God, in the red hymnal, number 259. On this holy day, we come together to make sense of our lives. We look to your word, O God, as a source of understanding. Revive our souls that our hearts may rejoice in your presence. Cleanse and enlighten us with your truth. Liberate us from self-imposed limitations. Let the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our rock and our redeemer. Amen. We will have a few moments of fellowship time. I've noticed that we have a few of our Christmas decorations taken down. So we're not exactly following the January 6th British schedule, but we'll get there.
It's not late yet.
Or we can just leave them up till next year, is not what one of the suggestions was. Please join me in singing the prayer hymn, Just As I Am, Red Hymnal 342. concerns this morning, other than some that have been expressed? I have a joy that I got to spend some time with my grandson, and he spent the night at my house. The concern is that I need to set up his own bed so he doesn't have to try to sleep with me in mine, because it's like sleeping with a pack of wild dogs. I didn't get a lot of rest, but he was excited. He got to come to Grandma's house, and he remembered, he said he had tears in his eyes when he saw his little painted chair. When he was 4 years old, I painted a little chair for him, and he hadn't seen it for quite a while, and he gets very emotional. And he said he had a lot of good times there with me before he and his mom and everybody moved out, because we had an infestation of gnats, he called it. Well, it was fleas, and it was from the cats that were living there, that my daughter didn't exactly monitor the cats or take care of them that well while I was at seminary last year, so it was a long story. But anyway, so he was, we had popcorn and we watched Netflix, Oscar's Oasis, which we've been doing for years, so he was excited. If there are no further joys or concerns, please join me in the pastoral prayer. Dear God, we ask your blessing on this community as we have the installation of new members or new leadership positions, rotated leadership positions. We ask that you look out for the community of Tabor. You watch over our children. You watch over the communities surrounding and the larger world, which we know you tend to. We ask for blessings and courage for those in the Philippines who have suffered trauma in a Catholic church. Our Christian brothers and sisters seem to be under siege in various places in the world. We ask for your blessings on them and their families as they suffer loss. We ask for those who suffer loss from death, disease, illness, shootings, violence, human against human. And we ask that you watch over carefully our leaders in the government who seem to have conflicts and are trying to find their way to resolve them. We ask all this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord, and we pray his prayer as he taught us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. Please join me in reading our prayer of confession and assurance listed in the order of service as you remain seated. Sometimes, God, we do not know what to confess. We seek to keep your law, but the right course is not always clear. We want to follow your direction, but it is hard to discern what is true. Sometimes it is hard to care about people whose values are different from ours. How can we be one with those who do not share our beliefs? At times, our own faith is shaken, our faith in ourselves and our faith in you. We need your help so our sins will not dominate us. Do not weep or mourn before the law of God. Rather, let the law revive your soul and enlighten your eyes. The Spirit of God is eager to teach, inspire, and strengthen us. Desire to know the purpose of God. God is our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Our Old Testament reading today, in following with the Epiphany season, third Sunday, is from Nehemiah chapter 8, verses 8 to 10. And as usual, I'll use the New International Version. They read from the book of the law of God, making it clear and giving the meaning so that the people understood what was being read. Then Nehemiah the governor, Ezra the priest and teacher of the law, and the Levites who were instructing the people said to them, "This day is holy to the Lord your God. Do not mourn or weep." For all the people had been weeping as they listened to the words of the law. Nehemiah said, "Go and enjoy choice food and sweet drinks, and send some to those who have nothing prepared. This day is holy to our Lord. Do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength." We will now have the offering. For the world. Your rule among us, O God, is more to be desired than riches. Therefore we share what you have allowed us to use, giving thanks for the joy of helping others and entering into partnership with them. This is only the beginning of our offering, for we dedicate here our varied gifts as apostles, prophets, teachers, healers, helpers, administrators, speakers, and workers. In all we do, we will seek to serve you by sharing your love. Amen. Please join me in reading the affirmation of our faith found at the front cover of the order of service. We believe in God, the eternal Spirit, Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, and our Father, and to his deeds we testify. He calls the worlds into being, creates man in his own image, and sets before him the ways of life and death. He seeks in holy love to save all people from aimlessness and sin. He judges men and nations by his righteous will, declared through prophets and apostles. In Jesus Christ, the man of Nazareth, our crucified and risen Lord, he has come to us and shared our common lot, conquering sin and death, and reconciling the world to himself. He bestows upon us his Holy Spirit, creating and renewing the Church of Jesus Christ, binding in covenant faithful people of all ages, tongues, and races. He calls us into his church to accept the cost and joy of discipleship, to be his servants in the service of men, to proclaim the gospel to all the world, and resist the powers of evil, to share in Christ's baptism and eat at his table, and to join him in his passion and victory. He promises to all who would trust him forgiveness of sins and fullness of grace, courage in the struggle for justice and peace, his presence in trial and rejoicing, and eternal life in his kingdom, which has no end. Blessing and honor, glory and power be unto him. Amen. Of officers. And I'm not sure I have a copy. You might have to install yourself. No, here we go. And your names are there, and it's probably everybody but Larry and
Janet.
Yes, we need a couple of people to stay out there to be in the congregation part. So, did I get the second page yet? So would you come up to the front here? Anyone who's being installed? I found it. There we go. And bring your gray sheet to insert. I did cut the sermon down as a result of this. I'll just read the names. Larry Crom, Mary Lou Crom, Dan Witzke, Pat Weldon, Joyce Howry, Carol Starr, Angie Davis, Robert Benton, Barbara Thomas, Charm Smith, and Sharon Witzke. Dear friends, we meet here now in the presence of God that we may recognize his call upon those of our fellowship into leadership positions within God's church. These persons called to this responsibility of stewardship are called to not only be servants of people, but primarily to be servants of Christ. They have been duly elected to this responsibility and now stand ready to pledge their intent in fulfilling the duties entrusted to their care. Let us likewise pledge our support of them with encouraging words and prayerful remembrance. Let's all read this together. Almighty God, we thank you that you have called us into your church and have given us tasks to perform. Help us to be aware that you have entrusted us with accomplishing great things for the advancement of your kingdom on earth. Send now your Holy Spirit upon these, your servants, who are called to leadership positions within this congregation. Help them to employ the gifts which you have prepared for us. May your church be blessed by our service, and may we find joy in serving you. Amen. Beloved, this congregation has elected you to a position of leadership. It is a great honor to be chosen to administer and supervise the work of the church. You now present yourselves in response to the call of of the church to be installed into the active duties of your office, it is appropriate that you now answer the following questions. Do you willingly accept the responsibilities of the office to which you have been elected? And do you promise to perform the duties of the office as diligently and effectively as possible? If so, answer, I do. I do. Do you endeavor to lead an exemplary Christian life to set a proper example for others? If so, answer, I will do so with the help of the Holy Spirit. Will you agree? And it's upside down. Will you agree to live in harmony with the Tabor Congregational UCC Church? If so, answer, I will do so with the help of Jesus Christ. Will you promote the peace, unity, and effectiveness of the church, and in cooperation with other officers, foster the blending of all efforts to fulfilling the mission statement of this church? If so, answer, I will, God leading my helper. May the Almighty, who has given you the will to accept this office, also grant unto you the grace and strength to properly fulfill the duties and responsibilities required. Amen. The charge to the congregation is, members of the body of Christ, we recognize the call of Christ received by these members of our fellowship as they have been elected officers of Tabor Congregational UCC Church. God in His sovereignty has arranged for their election for His service. It is now our obligation to support them by our loyalty and prayers, seeking with them and for them consecration from on high, that they may be empowered for this calling with reverence and faithfulness to the glory of God. As members and friends of this Tabor Congregational UCC Church, to whose service these officers have now pledged themselves, will you all promise your loyal cooperation and prayer support in the home and the church? If so, answer, heartily, we will. In accordance with the bylaws of this church and by the authority vested in me as its minister, I hereby solemnly commission you as officers called to the privilege of leadership in this Tabor Congregational Church. Go as you have been chosen. Be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. Amen. You may be seated. Our gospel reading for today is John chapter 2, verses 1 to 11. On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "We have no more wine." He said, "Woman, why do you involve me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Just do whatever he tells you." Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. So they filled them to the brim. And then he told them, "Now draw out some and take it to the master of the banquet." They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, "Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best wine till now." What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. I called this sermon on the miracle water into wine. I usually play around, as you know, with words and titles. And I was going to actually call it water into wine and wine into water. And you will see, I hope, during the sermon why I thought of that, and I thought better of it, so we're just calling it on the miracle water into wine. So we are continuing on into the Epiphany season here. This is the third Sunday of Epiphany. There are many to follow until we come upon the Lenten season. As I presented last Sunday, Epiphany is seen in some sense to be a continuation of the Christmas season, and it focuses on three main events: the visitation of the Magi, the miracle Jesus performs at the marriage of Cana, and the baptism of Jesus. And I promised you I would address all of these during this Epiphany season, so today we are dealing with the miracle Jesus performs at a marriage feast in Cana. So just why is this miracle at Cana so popular? Well, from a very early period, the church has recognized the importance and significance of this miracle. In the frescoes and mosaics and stained glass of numerous churches and consecrated buildings, the incident has historically been depicted in a variety of ways. The cover of your order of service this morning is one example of the miracle depicted in stained glass. With commentators in all ages, the miracle of Cana has been a favorite and very fertile theme for art and creativity of expression. It is an example of the whole gospel, a type and image of all the work of Jesus, opening up a light shining far into the ways of God. I mentioned having the meaning of having an epiphany last week in relation to having a vision, but also in having a sudden understanding of our gifts, having those moments of clarity in which we just know how we are to proceed and what we're supposed to do. I believe this was such a moment in the life of the human side of Jesus, if he could be said to have had an epiphany himself. So here is Jesus in John's Gospel at a marriage feast in Cana, about 4 miles northeast of Nazareth, and they run out of wine. It's kind of a disastrous moment for that wedding planner, isn't it? People are celebrating this joyous occasion and partying, and back then the feast for marriages went on for days. According to Jewish custom, marriage custom, a betrothal lasted about a year, and then in the evening hour, a bride was led to the bridegroom's house for the ceremony, which was followed by a supper. And the festivities often lasted for more than one day. Imagine the wedding costs nowadays if the bride's parents paid for a few days of feasting at a country club, and imagine the facility that you are paying runs out of wine. It's a disaster. One commentary I read said that Jesus' mother Mary may have been responsible for the festivities. That's interesting. So Mary, Jesus' mother, may have been an ancient version of Jennifer Lopez as the wedding planner, and all the responsibility of the feasting and the celebration fell on Mary to make good and memorable the time had by all in attendance. So how convenient is it that your son, who has special gifts that he's been hiding from the public, like he can turn one substance into another, happens to be one of the invites? That's pretty convenient, I'd say. Personally, I've always thought it interesting that Mary says to Jesus, "Well, they ran out of wine," hint, hint. And his response is a sort of, "So why are you involving me, Mom? You know, my hour isn't here yet," meaning his crucifixion hour, the commentary says, when his Messiah status is revealed. So if he does this miracle, his very first, then he reveals his special gifts and powers. And what is even more interesting is that Mary sets this up as though she knows he's going to do it anyway. As she tells the servants, "Do whatever he asks you to do." But this is his mother's deal, and he decides to resolve the situation. But it is really more than just this. I'll explain this through another commentary in a moment or so. However, on a side note, one biblical commentary I read also says that Jesus' presence at this festivity prompted the Pharisees to call him a winnow beaver. That's how the dictionary voice pronounced this word. W-I-N-E-B-I-B-B-E-R. A winnabeaver means, according to the King James Dictionary, a drinker of wine. But here's the passage in Matthew referring to its use regarding Jesus. For John came, neither eating nor drinking, and they said, he hath a devil. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, behold a man gluttonous and a winnabeaver, a friend of publicans and sinners, but wisdom is justified of her children. Now that's Matthew chapter 11, verses 18 to 19. And that's publicans, not Republicans in there. Even back then, the media portrays someone they don't like in very unflattering terms, with a no-win situation, whether you eat and drink or you don't, or whether you serve burgers in the White House. And on the topic of a winnabeaver, I have to tell you that such, having worked with alcoholics for a period of time, I witnessed such a person, a winnabeaver, take $14,000 from a lawsuit he won and drink most of it in the form of Cabernet Sauvignon in about 3 months. He managed to turn a whole lot of wine into water, so to speak, in a short time. This was not a miracle. This miracle at Cana is the first miracle among the miracles of Jesus, and it's indicative of the general character of those miracles that followed, showing Christ's omnipotence and goodwill, and had as their objective to manifest forth Christ's glory. So what are the circumstances in which the miracle happened? There was a failure of the wine, perhaps through the unexpected advent of Jesus and his disciples. There was Mary's appeal based upon her anxiety for the credit of the entertainers and the comfort of the guests. Then there was Mary's faith in Jesus, not merely as her son, but as the Son of God. And then we notice the displeasure of Jesus, gently teaching Mary that her relationship to him was no ground on which she might make her appeal. Meaning that in all matters connected with his great work, she was no more to him than any of the other believers. And also we might notice that what he was about to do was not to be done for the reason for which she desired it. One commentary I read also pointed out that this miracle of Christ is often contrasted with Moses' first miracle, in which he turned water into blood. That's interesting. So in conclusion, what is really important to realize from the gospel reading of this first miracle of Jesus? Christ's ministry opens on a scene of human happiness. God himself is essential happiness and would have us be happy. We are disposed to make God the sharer of our sorrows. God teaches us here to make him a partner of our joys. And it is important that our Lord's first miracle was wrought in connection with an event, one of the brightest and most innocent in human life, a wedding. Jesus manifested himself in this first miracle as a servant, ministering to the necessities of others, enriching the enjoyments of human life by his blessing. May we understand Jesus' incarnation as a servant and our roles as servants to others and to this church, and recognize it as a blessing. We ask this in his name. Amen. We will now sing the closing hymn, Take My Life and Let It Be, from the red hymnal, number 379.